let's talk about, if we can, let's talk about Jack Smith, and let's remind people, Allison, who he is and what he did, because I think people forget,
Okay.
and then what he said today, and then essentially, in my take, it's not just Trump who's the problem. I think it's really important to remind people as Republicans, the entirety of them. And then you had 6 minutes ago Donald Trump on Truth Social calling on Pam Bondi to prosecute Jack Smith. Did you see his post?
Yeah, I thought that was especially entertaining because the Republicans on the committee right now are grilling Jack Smith about whether or not Joe Biden had instructed him to go after his political enemies. And meanwhile, Donald Trump is instructing his attorney general to go after his political enemies. It's just that's very fascinating. And the other thing that stands out to me today is, of course, per usual, the Republicans don't care about the rule of law or the American people or the safety of the American people. All they give a shit about is that their toll records were subpoenaed under a non-disclosure order, which is all legal and all by the law, and signed off by a judicial warrant. And right now, we have gotten breaking news late last night that the Department of Homeland Security is instructing their ICE officers that they don't need a judicial warrant to enter your house.
Right.
So their complaints here seem a little disingenuous when they themselves are the ones that are trampling all over the Bill of Rights and our personal rights as people, our Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful search and seizure, directing ICE agents to disobey the Constitution and enter our houses without a judicial warrant, and then
And
whinging all day about an actual judicial warrant to get their toll records.
and also the projection is just chef's kiss. Every accusation is a confession. Breaking news just now that Trump Budget Office orders a review of funds to Democratic-controlled states, and Trump said his administration would cut off federal resources to, quote, sanctuary cities on February 1st. Maybe if they were violent insurrectionists, he would pardon them and have the government give them $2,200. That's what's happening right now. The insurrectionists are demanding the government pay them back. Or if there were fraudsters, maybe he would pardon them. Or if they're their friends like Milei, maybe he'd give them a $40 billion bailout. But yes, it's the complete upside down. We're going to get into all of that. First, let's start with Jack Smith. For those who forget or those who forgot, because there's a lot, can you remind people who Jack Smith is and why he's a major character in this story?
Yeah, he's the special prosecutor appointed by Merrick Garland, took the oath, I think, November 18th of 2022, and was charged with investigating Donald Trump for two things, right? The obstruction of the peaceful transfer of power, January 6th, trying to overturn the election, and that he was keeping very, very our top, like super top secret stuff at his, as Jack Smith it says, Mar-a-Lago social club in the ballroom and in the bathroom. And he indicted him in two different districts. The DOJ indicted him in summer of 2023. And then after the election, he had to dismiss those cases with prejudice, which he reminded everybody about, or without prejudice, excuse me, which he reminded everybody about today, which means the charges can be brought again. Dismiss
Mm.
those cases without prejudice after Donald Trump won the election because of the Office of Legal Counsel memo that says you can't prosecute a sitting president. He said that's never happened in history. We've never actually elected somebody that had been indicted, but we did this time. And so we consulted with the Solicitor General's office, who said, and the Office of Legal Counsel, who said, yes, as our memo says, you can't prosecute, you got to drop these cases. So he did. That's who Jack Smith is. He's spent 30 years as a prosecutor. He's been in the public integrity section. He's brought charges against both Democrats and Republicans. He has gotten toll records for both Democrats and Republicans in the past. The only reason he didn't get any Democratic toll records in this particular case is because Donald Trump chose not to call any Democrats. He only called Republicans, and they just needed to corroborate those stories. None of those people were actually targets of the investigation. And then, he worked at The Hague for a while, prosecuting war crimes, most recently Kosovo, and he won that case, and then was asked to come and take over as special counsel as soon as Donald Trump announced he was running for office, which was after, um, most of 2022. At the end of 2022 is when he declared that he was running for office, and that's why he was appointed. They appointed a special counsel. I wanted a special counsel in 2021, but you don't always get what you ask for. So here we are. But nonetheless, it was the Supreme Court that stopped those cases, and that's who Jack Smith is. He's testifying today publicly as he wanted to, because he only testified previously behind closed doors. Per Jim Jordan, who's again just whining about his toll records and the speech or debate clause, and did he get sworn in? Did Jack Smith get sworn in properly? I mean, just a bunch of BS, basically.
But okay, so I really appreciate that, because Jack Smith, and he says, I'm not partisan. I'm only devoted to the rule of law. He brought the evidence. He was very blunt. Didn't hold back, like Robert Mueller and others. He was pretty clear, making the case for Donald Trump and how he incited an insurrection and how he was responsible for it. And like you said, stole classified documents, lied about it, stored it in Mar-a-Lago. The Supreme Court, thank you for reminding us, with this just belligerent case that you and I talked about, that they went above and beyond to essentially, let's be honest, not the president, but gave Trump absolute immunity for core functions done within the scope of his duties as executive officer. Essentially gave him a get out of jail free pass.
And not just core duties, but presumptive immunity for other, not core duties, and immunity over any evidence that might come out. It was a very broad thing. Even Amy Coney Barrett was like, "Wow, hang on a second." Like, even her, she was like, "That's a little over the top."
And they're like, no, we're going to go and give it to him because he's our king and daddy, and he needs to establish the Christian kingdom, apparently for the devil. Furthermore, Jack Smith says that Trump intimidates witnesses, threatens witnesses, and seeing the clips, I didn't see all of it. I don't see this as a win for Republicans, Allison. Like, if anything, you have Jack Smith back in the news, all focus on him, literally him telling the world, reminding the world that, yeah, Donald Trump is a criminal inside a violent insurrection, and he threatens and badgers witnesses. And by the way, this is your king and daddy.
Yeah, I mean, as a win for Republic, it depends on how stupid you are. That one Congresswoman, Republican Lee,
Oh, yeah.
dismantled her. She was like, "Don't you have to have intent?" And he's like, "Yeah, we had tons of evidence of intent." "Oh, don't you have to have corruption?" "Yeah, there was tons of evidence of corruption." "Well, in order to charge, don't you have to have beyond a reasonable doubt?" "Yeah, I had all that. I had it all beyond a reasonable doubt." "Okay, fine." Like, it was really,
But
really
what
bad
about
for
my toll records? What about my toll record?
But when you have people complaining about the toll records, complaining about the speech or debate clause, people who don't understand the law, people who don't understand the scope of this investigation and everything Donald Trump did wrong, people who didn't read the indictments, people who didn't read the 165-page immunity brief submitted by Jack Smith, those folks will just see like, yeah, how come he's going after Republicans' toll records? That's messed up. And maybe Judge Cannon was right. Like, those kinds of folks, you're not going to. I don't think this is going to change any minds on either side. Honestly, if I'm being frank, I think more we should be focusing on seriously on the fact that Department of Homeland Security is instructing ICE agents to break into our homes without a judicial warrant against the Fourth Amendment. That is bombshell news. It should be 24-hour coverage, wall to wall on cable networks, and it is not. These guys, these rich fellows who are awash in privilege are mad about toll records when they weren't targets of an investigation that were obtained properly with a judicial warrant. Meanwhile, lapdogging for an administration that is instructing while hiding the memo so that it doesn't get out because they know it's against the law, telling their ICE agents that they can ram through your doors with the necessary force without a judicial warrant. I can't. The fact that those two things are happening at the same time just blows my mind, and I think everything should be framed with this new story in mind from these whistleblowers about DHS.
Speaking about the story, I think the one importance about the Jack Smith investigation is, yes, we know that nothing's going to happen to Donald Trump, but I think what it does is because we live in the United States of amnesia, Allison, and we have the attention span of gnats, and this self-destructive, absurd country that is my home decided to reelect, not with the majority, with a small plurality, a convicted criminal. And like you said, what they're doing right now, this entire machine of hypocrisy, of threats, of illegality, of violence, of cruelty took place on January 6th. And not only that, the entirety of the right-wing machine covered it up. And I think people need that blunt, bold reminder. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump did incite a violent insurrection. Oh, yeah. He did steal classified documents. Oh, yeah. He did try to threaten Georgia to find him the votes. Oh, yeah, the entirety of the Republican machine was complicit. And oh, yeah, of course, now they're illegally now busting heads and killing people and now violating the Fourth Amendment because their king and daddy doesn't care about the Constitution. I think that should be the story, right? This utter lack of brazen lawlessness and lack of accountability. Now it's not just, these ethereal concepts of democracy. I think this is the way people work, Allison. Now they're like, oh, they're killing white women. Oh, they're busting into our homes. Oh, they're tear gassing 6-month-old babies. Oh, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean they don't have to? What do you mean about the Fourth Amendment? What does that mean? Can you explain it in layman's terms, especially as Donald Trump now has unleashed ICE in Maine, which is a very white state, Minneapolis, Chicago, California, Portland, and has now just threatened some breaking news to cut funding to 13 states, what it means for people who think, he's just going to go after the Mexicans and Palestinians, that ICE, according to the whistleblower document that came out last night, has been informed to ignore the Fourth Amendment and can search people's homes. What does that mean in layman's terms?
It means the government can come into your house without a judicial warrant. That's what they're teaching them. They don't need a judicial warrant. They only need an I-205 administrative warrant. And the difference is those I-205 administrative warrants are signed by people in the executive branch. And the executive branch can't check itself on whether or not they can violate our Fourth Amendment rights, or any of our rights for that matter. In fact, this is a conspiracy, in my take, under the Ku Klux Klan Act, a conspiracy against rights.
That's right.
Our Fourth Amendment, 2 or more people engaged in the conspiracy to deprive people of a constitutional right under color of law. And as we know, there's by the way, according to this memo, they say that their Office of General Counsel has reviewed the Constitution and the INA, and we've determined that it's totally constitutional to break into your house without a judicial warrant, without that check on the executive power, without that check on the government. Remember the "Don't Tread on Me" flag? That they're treading on. And that memo is still not public. The memo instructing ICE to go into your house without a judicial warrant, that's public. But the legal opinion from the DHS Office of General Counsel, which is an installed puppet by Donald Trump, has not been seen. And last night, in the middle of the night, I filed a FOIA request for it.
And that was came out last night, folks, and builds further evidence as to what I've been saying for a while, and I'll keep saying it, is ICE is the modern Gestapo. I've been saying it for more than a year. For longer than that, I've been saying abolish ICE. This is who they are. We've been following it for 20 years. ICE now has been told to ignore the Fourth Amendment, which means, in layman's terms, you're at home. You're middle-aged, you're upper middle class, you're white. ICE, based on a tip, on a whim, because maybe, I don't know, you have a Latino American wife who's a citizen, can barge into your home. ICE can now murder white women. ICE will lie about it. ICE will cover it up. ICE will tear gas kids. ICE will tear gas cops. ICE will just unleash terror on your streets. And J.D. Vance has said that they have absolute immunity. To then which I ask, why, oh, why, Allison, should anyone fund the DHS?
They shouldn't. And I think they've pulled the DHS approach bill out of the omnibus package and turned it into a minibus package for just DHS. And everyone right now can call your rep and tell them not to fund DHS. The only problem, and that won't shut the government down, right? Because the rest of the stuff goes through. And the Democrats did some great things. They pulled all the anti-trans provisions out of the Department of Education and Health and Human Services. So those are gone. which I think is really good news. It funds it till September, so we don't have to dick with the Republicans again until then. But I think what's important here is that even if we were to shut down or defund the ongoing appropriations of the Department of Homeland Security, ICE is still funded through a $75 million slush fund set up by the Big Ugly Bill. Nothing we could have done in this continuing resolution fight would have defunded ICE because the Republicans pushed through that Big Ugly Bill, the tax breaks, the funding for ICE, the funding for the Pentagon, et cetera. So I'm actually kind of relieved to know that, not in the sense that ICE will continue to be funded, but that we don't have to, for example, shut the courts down in order to get ICE defunded, because at this point we simply can't. In order to actually defund ICE, we have to get the majority back, and we have to file our own budget reconciliation bill, at which would remove all these taxes for the rich, add taxes to the most wealthy, remove funding from certain things, et cetera. And then if we want to demolish and abolish ICE, or dismantle, what I'd like to do, dismantle the DHS and move some of the more important parts like FEMA, TSA, CISA, move those to, commerce. And I think we should have a climate cabinet level position and a climate agency that FEMA can go under, stuff like that. We can't do that until we have a president in the White House to be willing to sign the bill to create those cabinet levels, move those things around, and dismantle the Department of Homeland Security. So for now, unfortunately, because of the Big Ugly Bill, there's nothing we can do to defund ICE right now, unfortunately. But I think that hopefully this whistleblower report, which I think is on par with the Zelensky whistleblower, that's how big this is. This is a criminal conspiracy to put down our rights under the Constitution. These are impeachable offenses, and they're criminal offenses under Title 18 U.S. Code 241 and 242 from the Ku Klux Klan Act. And I think the good news is that despite all the whinging from the Republicans, their attempts to weaponize the DOJ are failing every day. We see them unable to get grand juries to return federal indictments. We see them being acquitted in court. We see video evidence coming forward. And today we found that a magistrate judge wouldn't even sign a criminal complaint against Don Lemon.
Yeah, Lev just texted me.
For doing what Jesus did, which was to go into a church and question the pastor who's not a real Christian and is a hypocrite. And every single case about defunding the states that you brought up for defunding sanctuary cities, every time Donald Trump tries to defund a city, whether it's SNAP benefits or FEMA or whatever, he has lost those in court, and the funds have continued to flow. So he will lose that in court as well. And so on the ground, in the details, are laid bare the failures of Donald Trump to weaponize this Justice Department. Lisa Cook is about to be told by the Supreme Court that she can't be fired from her multi-board position at the Federal Reserve. There's not going to be any charges probably against Jerome Powell, and if there are, they're going to be laughed out of court, either pre-trial or during trial. I mean, they fail every single time. Sandwich Guy couldn't even get convicted of 111, and they're
Sandwich Guy, the hero of DC who threw the sandwich at ICE, and now there's a mural painted for him.
And they shot a woman in the head and murdered her because she was filming and observing, and they're calling that 111, forcibly obstructing law enforcement. But she didn't throw a sandwich. So, she was like, I'm not even mad at you, dude. It's the opposite of Sandwich Guy.
And furthermore, the good news is, look, they're trying. The DOJ under Pam Bondi is no longer an independent agency. It simply serves to act as Donald Trump's Luca Brasi, its hitman. And they've been trying, folks, and they've been really aggressive, and they've been very desperate. If you've been paying attention, it was just last Sunday, a week and a half ago, that Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, another whistleblower, literally did a 2-minute video telling the world rather, that Donald Trump and his DOJ is threatening him with a criminal indictment unless he lowers interest rates. It was a really bold statement. You would have been assuming, still headline news. It was forgotten after 2 days because Donald Trump and the DOJ threatened Mark Kelly, and they threatened House Democrats, and then they're threatening Elisa Slotkin, and now they're threatening to investigate the widow of Renee Nicole Good, which prompted the mass resignation of 10 prosecutors, not investigate Officer Ross, the murderer, who is now seen as a hero, much like Kyle Rittenhouse and Daniel Penny and all these other men who've killed Black people. In this case, they've said that Renee Nicole Good is a domestic terrorist. All of this, though, is overreach, right? Now, for those who are trying to catch up with all the news yesterday, Operation what was it? Operation A Good Catch in Maine. It's a disgusting, vile name that they have. They've unleashed ICE agents in Maine. Maine has a Somali American population. There are some refugees there. If you've never been, also a very white state. So what's going to happen if ICE overreaches like it did in Minnesota and Minneapolis? Allison, you're going to have videos of ICE terrorizing a lot of white folks, a lot of citizens, a lot of suburbanites just sitting there minding their own business. All of it is overreach. And in the past 2 weeks, Allison, if you look at the polls, Donald Trump is negative double digits on every single issue, including immigration. And furthermore, I mean, I'm so happy it took America 20 years to figure it out. He's lost the majority on ICE. So I'm with you. I'm glad that you said dismantle DHS because people forget. DHS has only been around for 23 years. You and I were old enough when it was created in 2003. Under DHS, there's ICE. If Republicans can get rid of Department of Education, that's been around since the 70s, if they can get rid of USAID, why do we need DHS and ICE? Dismantle it, replace it with something better. What's so radical about what I just said and what you just said, Allison?
I don't even think you have to replace it with anything better. You can put Customs and Border Patrol in Commerce, and you can put FEMA over in, that new climate cabinet level agency that I think we should have. You could put TSA under Commerce as well, and CISA you could put under the Department of Justice probably, and then just scrap the rest. You definitely don't need ICE. I think we've shown that because they're focused on the 70% of the people that they've got have no criminal record, so they're not doing it right. It's been too corrupted to reform. Now, I think Democrats in this continuing resolution for DHS approach might try to reform it. I don't want people to mistake that for weakness because they're saying, don't reform it, abolish it. I'm with you on that. But in a continuing resolution for approach, we can't abolish it, again, because it's still funded by the big ugly bill. But we can certainly reform it. It's the best we can do being in the minority. Again, that's why elections have consequences. But I just, I think there's no reason to have the Department of Homeland Security when, especially ICE, their main focus and DHS's main focus should be to protect Americans from whatever the number one terror threat is globally. And right now, the number one terror threat is white supremacy, domestic violent extremism from white supremacists. So unless and until you have the entire operation of DHS focused on that, then it's not doing what it was intended to do in its charter. And if it's not doing what it intended to do in its charter, it doesn't need to exist.
And furthermore, folks, anyone who makes the excuse, especially the moderates and the centrists and the people who need to be launched into the sun, and also all the Republicans, then you have to ask them, does that mean that you're perfectly fine with this agency murdering and killing unarmed white women and then lying about it and covering it up and tear gassing 6-month-old kids and then murdering? I'm sure you saw the other news that came out yesterday that the 55-year-old Cuban immigrant who was in ICE detention in Texas, his death was officially ruled a homicide. So that takes the number to what, about 32 that we know of, Allison, people who have been killed or died under ICE detention. That's the only thing that we know about. So folks, yes, last night, again, the man, the 55-year-old man whose name I'm forgetting right now, who's a Cuban immigrant who was in ICE detention, they did an autopsy and was officially ruled that it was a homicide. So how did he, I don't know, die via homicide while in ICE detention? Maybe, just maybe, wait for it, ICE agents killed him. Oh, like the thousands of immigrants who have died in detention by CBP and also ICE, going back the past 20 years. The number is so obscene. If you listen to Jen Budd, the whistleblower, when she came on here last week, the number she gave was about 80,000 people have been killed, 80,000 people that we know of. And there's a documentary on HBO right now called Critical Incident, That talks about one such case about a man who was in detention. There were eyewitnesses everywhere. They killed him, and then, much like what they're doing with Renee Nicole Good, they covered it up. It's like a same tit for tat playbook that they're using, folks. So, anyone who wants to fund this, support this, elevate this, you have to ask them, why are you telling us to use our taxpayer dollars to fund a lawless agency that is now behaving like the KKK?
Yeah, and like you said, honestly, if Trump's going to try to withhold federal funding from states, then states should try to withhold our federal tax dollars from the Fed, especially if it's going to pay for this sort of state-sanctioned terrorism, which is, again, a conspiracy to put down rights under the color of law. It's why the Ku Klux Klan Act was passed. So Trump was charged with the Ku Klux Klan Act, 241. His conspiracy was to take away our right to vote or suppress our right to vote by trying to dilute the votes, particularly in Georgia, states like Georgia, the 7 swing states. And that's because he was a private citizen. But then there's 242, which is under the color of law. And the reason they did that under the Ku Klux Klan Act was because a lot of the Klan members were police officers, and they were conspiring together to put down the civil rights of Black people in the South. That is what the birth of the Ku Klux Klan Act is, when you get cops involved who are corrupt. And that is exactly what we have in this particular situation, especially when they have installed criminal lawyers coming to tell them that you can break into anyone's house. It doesn't have to be an immigrant. It doesn't have to be a non-citizen. It doesn't have to be a U.S. citizen. Whoever you want, you can use force to break into their house without a judicial warrant. All you need is one of Trump's lackeys in the executive branch to sign an administrative warrant. An ICE agent, a supervisor, can sign an I-205 and say, here's your warrant, go in. Without that check and balance, one of our main fundamental things that this government was built on. That's why you need, and why the Supreme Court has said, you need a judicial warrant, because the assumption is that the executive branch can't check itself. And they oftentimes won't, especially if it's corrupt. Like, what the fuck is the point of checks and balances if not for this? If not to check a corrupt administration who is trying to, who's actually conspiring to put down people's constitutional rights, in this case, the Fourth Amendment, under color of law, conspiring with law enforcement, corrupt law enforcement to do so. So I think that as we go further into this, and as more of this story comes out, because it will, and I think it's going to be a pretty top story here for a while, I think that's what people need to ask themselves and their neighbors. It's like, do you know Trump's saying it's cool to break into your house without a warrant, without a proper warrant? And just start from there. Just say, what happened to "Don't tread on me"? Do you know you're being surveilled? Do you hear about everybody in line trying to get on a plane? They were looking for one guy, and they wouldn't let anybody on the plane unless ICE took a photo of all of them for their AI
Wow. No, I did
validation
not know that.
database.
I
Yeah,
did not know that.
and they
And then
wouldn't let you
talented.
on the plane if you didn't agree to it.
This is, we keep saying Gestapo, which is an accurate analogy for ICE. But Brittany Packett made a really good point, and she said, you don't even have to go across the borders. You don't even have to take the time machine to 1930s. You could just call ICE the KKK, because they're behaving like the slave patrols. You just have to ask Black people how it was like to live in the South in the United States of America, where the entire system was against you. The judiciary was against you. The jury was against you. The moms and pops were against you. The people who were in law enforcement were against you, right? They used to openly commit crimes, and then they were acquitted. And, the way I was talking to Kevin Cruz about this, professor from Princeton. I'm saying, what's the lesson that we could take, Allison? Because if you were Black in the South, and not just in the South, but specifically in the South, you felt like, oh my God, the entire system is against me. What can I do? And so, what he said is, in 1963, when MLK wrote letters from a Birmingham jail, he excoriated the white moderates. He said they're worse than the white citizen counselor and the KKK because they prefer civility in order to justice, right? And they wag their finger paternalistically and tell you to, I'm going to paraphrase, inshallah, wait for a better day and don't be so divisive. And so learning from that the next year, Freedom Summer, very strategically, the young Black activists said, okay, we need white folks. white skin in the game. And when America sees white bodies being beaten up and white people sitting next to us and like rich white kids and privileged white kids, then they would care. And that's what happened. You got these children of wealthy, privileged white folks who decided to join these young black men and women. And then we know now those two young white students who were murdered for being race traitors, right? That's when America's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I feel like, I said this yesterday, and I'm saying this, folks, it's not all white folks. We're not blaming all whites. Thank you for the white people who are watching. Some of my best friends are whites. But in America, what we've just described for the past 35 minutes has been happening to Native Americans, Black people, Muslims, pro-Palestinian activists. Another piece of breaking news, which is heartbreaking, Mahmoud Khalil has been ordered deported. Deported. They're sending him to like Africa, okay? However, now that you see white women being killed, now that you said, oh, white people's homes can just illegally be treaded on, don't tread on me, now that you're seeing them deployed in Maine, is this the moment, Allison, where I think enough of the majority says, whoa, 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 okay, it's not just the blacks, it's not just the Muslims, it's not just the indigenous, they're coming for me and my wife and my kids. Is this the moment that
Well,
wakes
I
people up?
don't know. I don't know. I mean, how long before we got a turquoise alert in New Mexico for disappearing indigenous women when, that's been going on for forever, for centuries. I think and I don't want to generalize white people here, but I think the problem is a lot of us don't understand that people of color have been feeling this fear times 10 forever and have had to cope. I think white women had a new understanding of what it was like to have their rights stripped from them when Roe fell. We live in a country where a lot of people generally don't understand the depravity and the issue until it happens directly to them. And as a white person, it is far less likely to happen to me. And so when a white woman like Renee Good puts her body in between ICE and her neighbors, it's kind of what Jelani Cobb said when he appeared on Chris Hayes and talked about the Fugitive Slave Act, right? Where Black people were getting snatched out of neighborhoods. And that became a turning point where the rest of the people were like, we don't like this. It's affecting us in our cities and in our neighborhoods and in our communities now. And that seems to be sort of the same reaction here. But the thing that galls me every single time is that this is the All Lives Matter crowd.
Yes.
This is the
Yep.
All Lives Matter crowd that when we said Black Lives Matter, they said, no, all lives matter. They clearly do not. They clearly
That's
don't matter to them. And for them to say, oh, we don't see color, that's not the issue. Then when this sort of thing happens and they still don't react the proper way, it removes that whole veil of I don't see color and it's not the issue and all lives matter and the bullshit reasons for saying all lives matter when we know the real reason is bigotry and prejudice and deep-rooted racism, systematic or not.
And this is why, folks, the reason I'm spending time on this is exactly what is happening right now in America, in Minneapolis. What's happening, as Allison said, with the whistleblower report, who nearly 3,000 people are joining us. A lot of big news. Jack Smith is testifying today, very bluntly, openly, literally saying that Donald Trump intentionally incited a violent insurrection, stole classified documents, is a purveyor of a criminal network, and uses intimidation and threats. And Republicans, their gotcha moment ain't going so well. It's reminding people that this is exactly who he is. He's like a mob boss. He's using and abusing the DOJ and the government and all of his power to go against all of his enemies. And yesterday, there was a whistleblower report that said ICE has not been authorized to enter anyone's home in the United States of America, violating the Fourth Amendment. And that means they can just barge into your home, rough you up, snatch you up. That's what they've been doing, folks. There's a Fourth Amendment is there for a reason it's in the Constitution. This is why we need judicial warrants. But ICE is like, meh, who needs that? We just murdered a white woman. We could do whatever we want. The reason why I'm stressing this with history is this is exactly how law enforcement oftentimes has worked against people of color. Black people have been trying to warn us about it We marched in the streets over 20 years ago when I was a college student, warning America that by funding this insane military industrial complex during the aftermath of the war on terror, by creating the Patriot Act, DHS, ICE, it would be unleashed against all of us. It would be unleashed against all of us. And now we're seeing the same levers and institutions of our oppression, which America was perfectly fine because they're like, go crack some Palestinian skulls, Arab skulls, Muslim skulls, black skulls, Somali skulls, Latino skulls. Now white skulls are being cracked. And with the whistleblower report yesterday, as Allison posted last night, and then I went and searched for it and I retweeted it as well, they can go into anybody's homes, which is why now, Allison, I don't know if you've seen these clips. You're seeing like white folks. I'm just talking about like Minnesotan, middle-aged white folks are like, I went and bought a gun yesterday. I see what the Black Panthers are doing. Yeah, yeah. I've never bought a gun in my life, but I think this is why there's a Second Amendment. I think this is what the conservatives were talking about. So I saw them snatching up my neighbors. I bought an AR-15, and other people are like, "You see the Black Panthers? Yeah, I think they're onto something." And so now you're seeing white America. You saw a veteran. There was a veteran standing there with a big old gun, just standing there. And someone, I think it was Status Quo, went there and like, "Sir, why are you standing there?" He goes, I saw them come and snatch my neighbors off the street. And so I have my protections. I'm a veteran. I'm just standing here patrolling, making sure people keep safe. And, he was chilling. Uh, I think we're going to see more of that, Allison. I think we're going to see, that this is what happened with the Second Amendment. But the reason why, I know this is going to sound strange, folks, just stick with me. When the Black Panthers did this and exercised their Second Amendment right, in California, if you all recall, there was the Mulford Act. The only time that the NRA and conservatives and Republicans wanted to pass gun control was when when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California, and the Black Panthers said, "All right, you're going to terrorize us. We're just going to walk around with guns." And then they said, "We need gun control." However, Allison, when you got white veterans doing it, I don't think they're going to pass gun control. I just thought that was interesting. Your response to now seeing white folks just sitting there like, "All right, Second Amendment, I'm going to stand here with my gun."
Well, the conservatives can't come out and say, although they might soon, that the Second Amendment is only for white people.
Oh, they will. Oh,
But
they will.
everything that has happened to and with and around the Second Amendment sort of shows that. I got in so much trouble back in, I think it was 2013, 2014. Do you remember when Dallas cops were being tyrannical over in a black neighborhood, and the neighbors and the people who were being attacked by the cops brought out guns and started shooting? I think I posted on like Instagram or something. I'm like, Second Amendment, right? I mean, isn't that your right to bear arms against a tyrannical government? I don't understand. Why is it? Now, at the time I worked for the federal government, and I got called in to the office, and they were like, you either need to take the fact that you work for the government off of your profile, or you need to remove that post. And I was like, I'll take the fact that I work for the government off the profile, because I'm not removing that post. The whole Gadsden flag, don't tread on me, fuck the surveillance state, fuck the nanny state, fuck the government. You saw Kristi Noem the other day. She's like, you can't trust the government. And Barrett's like, you are the government. She's like, well, yeah, but not like that. Like it was just that whole identity. It has to just is shrinking, and they have to grab onto a different tiny little part of it as it goes away. I want to take back the Gadsden flag. I want to be like, don't tread on me when we talk about what's happening with ICE, what we was talking about with this administration. But
That's what's happening right now, Allison. It's happening in real time in Minnesota. You're seeing it. You're seeing the radicalization.
But to see these, screw the government guys and don't tread on me guys being like, yeah, tread. It's just tread, daddy. It's and all because billionaires tricked them into liking Donald Trump from Home Alone 2 so that they could get tax breaks.
That's right.
How stupid do you have to be tricked by billionaires into liking Donald Trump? Donald Trump, of all people. Even take away the last 10 years of all the bullshit that he's done. Billionaires
It's
tricked you into liking Donald Trump so that they could get tax breaks.
That's literally it. It's as old as story in America. It's Rupert Murdoch sitting there eating all your cookies, and he looks to the white man and says that black man stole your cookies. It's an update, and then you replace Rupert Murdoch with Elon Musk, and after Elon Musk, there'll be another billionaire. It's a divide and conquer using race and white supremacy as a cultural wedge, and then slowly but surely, a few of us are waking up, and that's why that slogan of "fight the oligarchy" is so powerful, and why so many people. I'm sorry to say this. I know people don't like it, even establishment Democrats who are paid by the same corporate donors say, whoa, 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 just don't go against the billionaires. Easy, easy now. Come on now. It's the same, same, same. It's capitalism with white supremacy intermingled. It's the American story, and Donald Trump, as we've often said, is the, if you will, the end result of America's enduring sins that refuse to be confronted and uprooted. But it was always my fear, Allison, and my concern is, we've been saying this for a year. If ICE is unleashed, and anyone who's watching the left took notice, I've said this is what's going to happen. If you have masked armed agents that are given absolute immunity to terrorize Americans, I'm an American. I know we have more guns than people, 400 million guns. We love guns. I know there's open carry. I know there's concealed carry. One of these days, this ICE agent is going to put their hands on the wrong person. That person could be a white Trump voter.
Well,
And that
that's what
person
they
will,
want. That's what they want, so that they can
that's
have
exact. That's where I
their
was going.
Reichstag fire moment, so that they can
That's where
say,
I was
"Oh,
going.
our regular forces can't do it. We have to invoke the Insurrection Act. We have to get rid of habeas corpus for a minute, and we've got to deploy troops." They've got troops ready in Alaska. They got troops ready in North Carolina to deploy to Minnesota right now because they've been itching to invoke the Insurrection Act for a long time. And frankly, I would, if I had a choice between a bunch of ICE agents and a bunch of military guys in my town, I'll take the military at this point. But it's still,
I'll take neither. I'll
it's
take neither.
right.
Uh, no, but
That's
you got to my point, which is this is what they're itching for. They're itching for anything. They're so desperate that once they unleashed ICE agents deliberately for provocation in the summer in LA at Home Depot and 7-Eleven, Stephen Miller was like, frothing at the mouth.
without
But
warrants, without the need for a warrant. That's been going on since May. They know this is to get people to bring their guns out and exercise their Second Amendment rights so that they could do this.
And what did the protesters in LA do? They were so organized and peaceful that even the LAPD came out and thanked them.
Well, they didn't know
Folks,
what to do with Portland.
the
They're
frogs.
like,
I mean, I think it goes every community any way you can resist legally and peacefully. We have strength in numbers, folks. That's what I'm saying. Strength in numbers. For those who forgot the frog costumes in Portland, they didn't know what to do, and then they're
yeah,
like, should we tear gas this frog?
they're
Yeah,
like, we
do
gotta
it.
get out of here. There's
Yeah, then they
giraffes and
tear gassed the
frogs.
frog, and it went viral, and people are like, "You're saying this is a violent criminal, a frog with a tiara that you just tear gassed?" They're losing, folks. They're losing. They're losing the popularity. They're losing the public sentiment. Donald Trump is aging, decaying, dying. Him at Davos was just shameful for me as an American to see this
Ugh.
old, decrepit man making these threats, rambling, barely awake with his stroke mouth. Misidentifying Iceland with Greenland, and then you had Caroline Levitt with doing a straight up North Korea moment, saying he didn't mean that. What are you talking about? But out of desperation, they're getting more and more violent, and that's why we're here to keep you awake. Like, just stay wide awake, folks. They are playing for all the marbles. And going back, and I know Allison's got to go in 2 minutes. You know how they're barely hanging on because all of their bullshit is all their lies, all of their all lives matter, don't tread on me, all of their justifications, all of their rhetorical devices are collapsing upon themselves because of the naked hypocrisy of it all. So what do they have left? You know what they have left, folks? You know what they have left? White supremacy. That's all they have. You're seeing it now. They're going to the core. All of the shell is going away and the nice exterior is going. They're going to the kernel of what it always was. Nazi slogans, white supremacy. And it's going to come to the point where only white Christian MAGA men are the ones who should have guns, which is exactly how the KKK behaved when it came to people of color. It's going right there. And if you don't believe me, check out the DHS and the Department of Labor Twitter account sometimes. Or, I don't know, the lectern that Christy Noem stood behind last week where she had the Nazi slogan, wait for it, one of ours, all of yours. They have nothing left, Allison. It's going to strip. That truth is going to be unveiled within 2 weeks, in my opinion. And what we've always been saying on the left hook, white supremacy and capitalism, the two enduring sins of America manifested through Trump. Some quick breaking news right now before you got to go. Trump sues JP Morgan and its CEO over cutting off his banking access, seeking $5 billion in damages. Not making it up. Trump alleges the financial giant debanked him in February 2021. He's very angry, and he wants $5 billion in damages, Allison.
Well, it's too bad for him. Good luck. Yeah, let's go to Discovery and talk about why you were debanked right after the insurrection. That would be cool. I'm down for that.
I think this is a man who knows he's dying, and before he dies, he's like Khan from Wrath of Khan, and he's on the ship, and from he wants to just unleash a litany of Festivus against the world. Sadly, he's the president of the United States of America, and he's Donald Trump. I'm going to let you go because I promise I let you go by 1:50. Allison, shamelessly promote yourself.
Okay, but first we have to say, to the last I grapple with thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. Okay.
And let me do this. Well, now I have to do it. Khan! Sorry.
He is. He's that guy. He's him. He's Khan Noonien Singh. Okay. Nerd time over. Everybody, please check out my Substack. It's free. Last night, I released early our Beanstalk show going over this whistleblower report. This is going to be massive. It's massive news to me already. I also filed a FOIA request for that secret legal justification for ICE being able to enter your home without the proper warrant. I FOIA'd that, and that's all in there. It's free to read. It's free to watch. MuellerSheWrote.com. If you have the means to be a paid subscriber, that's cool. It doesn't get you anything extra other than the deep satisfaction of knowing that you're supporting independent media, but only if you have the means to do so. And also, please check out my new video podcast, Beanstalk. You can find it at the MSW Media YouTube page.
I have Ro Khanna coming up in 10 minutes. Any question you want to ask him?
Tell them I'm sorry about the special master, and that I hope they actually file their own separate lawsuit to get authority from a court to appoint one.
He's such a nerd, Allison. I love it. Allison said he'll probably say thank you, Allison. I appreciate that.
Or you can tell him he's super cute and I love his hair.
I'll tell him that too. Thank you all for watching. This has been Allison Gill of The Breakdown. Please go subscribe. Like me, she's a terrible capitalist. Everything is free. There's no paywall. She depends of strangers. If you can give her a few bucks, that keeps the operation running. And also go check out the Daily Beans and her fantastic YouTube channel. She does great videos with Now Midas Touch and everyone else. This is The Left Hook. Similarly, no paywalls. I have a New Year's special. I just put in the links, thelefthook.substack.com/special for the rest of the week. It's $3.75 forever. $3.75 a month forever for those who I know who are struggling. But if you have no money, it's okay. Just subscribe for free. It's free. No paywalls and anything. So thank you all. There are 3,100 people are watching. We're going to have this up on my Substack and Allison's Substack. We talked about Jack Smith. We talked about accountability. We talked about the huge whistleblower report that came out yesterday where ICE can straight up, folks, ignore the Fourth Amendment and go into your home. We talked about how this has been happening for decades against Black and brown Americans. We talked about the DHS. And then we also talked about accountability. I hope that was helpful for all of you. Everyone be informed, be kind. If you can, come back in 8 minutes. I have Congressman Ro Khanna. We're going to talk about the Epstein files. We're going to talk about funding DHS. We're going to talk about Jack Smith. We're going to talk about Israel. And we're going to talk about democratic leadership. I'm going to ask him all these questions. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comment section. Thank you all. Take care. And please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Allison.
Thanks.